What's good, people? It's your boy Uncle Fred back in the house. Y'all thought you thought I had left y'all. It's late. Maybe most of y'all will get this video tomorrow. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We're gonna talk about a few things. We got us a DC. We're gonna talk about who it is and the circus and the round the world to get across the street to get to the point where we selected a DC. We could have got all this wrapped up last week. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about Dan Quinn trying to steal, kind of rob our cupboards, leaving our cupboards bare. We're going to talk about the NFL having their awards show tonight, NFL awards, and some surprising results, and some not so surprising. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about a few things. Demarcus Lawrence on First Take this week had some interesting things to say about his team. But what was really interesting was what he didn't say. Tony Romo also had some interesting things to say about the Cowboys and their plight and they're going forward and the talent on the team and how close we are. Um, and and so, yeah, and then Daryl Johnson, our fullback from the '90s, on those three Super Bowl teams, was on 105.3 The Fan, and he said some things today that confirmed the things that we've been talking about as it relates to the Cowboys and what prevents them from, doing as well as they can do. Especially in the postseason and things of that nature. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about who our DC is, his record, some of the things we should expect, and how I feel about it, and some of the pluses and minuses, advantages and disadvantages of who we selected, maybe who we might have could have selected. But we're going to talk a little bit about that. But you guys hang tight. We'll be right back with you in here just a minute.
Two times on the beat, bitch.
Once again, it's your boy, Uncle Fred. And this is Uncle Fred's Rants. It is Friday, February the 9th, and Super Bowl's about to approach us on Sunday. We're going to come in on Saturday, me and TK. We're going to give you our analysis of the championship games and our picks for the Super Bowl. We'll talk about that. And I know it's late and I see a couple people coming on, but I ain't gonna be on long. We're just gonna talk about a couple things. We got us a DC, and I feel like we're going to round the world and get across the street to get to it. And we're going to talk about a few things as it relates to that. Let's start here. We do know that the NFL had their award show tonight. The NFL awards, and they had a bunch of things that went on. And basically, it's just a pageantry, and they come in and they announce all of the awards of this season, the 2023 season, that of what it was, and then the best players and all these categories that won and stuff. So just running it down, the MVP. No surprise, it was Lamar Jackson. I think getting 40 of the 50 votes. I think a first place, 49, I think 48, 49 of the first place votes. I think Dak got no first place votes, but he finished second. I think he got 17 votes or whatever. I think it was like 48, 49 to 17 or whatever. And I think Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy kind of rounded out the list. Offensive player of the year, Christian McCaffrey, like 1,459 yards and 14 touchdowns. Defensive player of the year was Myles Garrett. The comeback player of the year was kind of interesting because he didn't get to the season till like game 9 or 10, But whatever, man. It was Joe Flacco who came in with the The injury to Deshaun Watson and to Dorian Thompson Robinson and what's the other quarterback's name? I mean, they all went down, and they got Joe Flacco up off the couch, and he got them into the playoffs, which they lost promptly. Him throwing 2 pick sixes, but he's NFL comeback player of the year. Baker Mayfield was in the running. Matthew Stafford was in the running, and stuff. But of course, Joe Flacco gets the award. And then the most interesting of the awards, of ones I thought, like, really, y'all went there, because it was, to me, it was a foregone conclusion who the coach of the year was, right? Right? They went with Kevin Stefanski of the Cleveland Browns. Not the guy that beat him in the playoffs. I just thought that was interesting because I felt like that was one of the most amazing turnaround seasons that I've ever seen in the NFL. A team that had the number 2 pick in the draft ended up winning a playoff game, winning like 9, 10 games, and winning a playoff game, and then of course, uh, uh, rookie player of the year, offensive. They had the offensive and defensive rookie of the year, which is C.J. Stroud on offense, and golly, guys, you know me and names. But the guy from Alabama won the defensive player of the year. Will Anderson Jr. There we go. Okay, I know it come to me. They won the offensive and defensive rookies of the year. So those were pretty much understood. Like I said, the Kevin Stefanski one, I guess they didn't want it to be a clean sweep for the Houston Texans, so they let DeMeco Ryans out the drop. But DeMeco Ryans is my coach of the year. I don't care what the NFL writers think, right? And then the most prestigious of the awards, the Walter Payton Man of the Year. Last year went to our own Dak Prescott. This year goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers' Cameron Hayward, defensive tackle. And he wins the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So that was the NFL's year in review and the awards ceremony that they had tonight. And so congratulations to all those that won. So now, news as it relates to the Cowboys. So D-Law goes on to First Take this week, and I just know that Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp, both noted Cowboy haters, was going to come in there and trip him up and trying to get him to point aspersions, as he liked to say, or castigate his teammates. Why wasn't y'all ready? Is it your quarterback? I mean, what was wrong with y'all? And many Mike would say that, his answers was kind of like, he didn't like his answer. He said, man, the grueling grind of the season, and maybe our legs weren't there. Maybe we was a little tired. Maybe we was a little, of course, they went, how could you be tired? Of course, Shannon's like, well, that'd be different if you played 40 games and the rest of the teams, didn't play but 18, 19 games, but everybody played 18 games, 17 games, How was you tired? And what they wanted to do is want him to say, hey, your quarterback wasn't good enough. Michael wasn't good enough or whatever. Michael was not nowhere to be found. Dak Prescott, threw 2 picks, threw a pick 6. And, that's what they wanted him to say. And by him saying what he said and how he said it, it sort of took the pressure off of those guys, because God knows Dak Prescott gets enough heat as it is. Some of it might be warranted. I'm not saying he's without blame and some of these things, but as I always say, I only can think of one game in the playoffs that he's played in that we've lost, that he played terrible or played bad, and was probably the not the sole reason, but the majority of the reason why we didn't win. And I would say that was last year and against San Francisco, because I felt like our defense kept us in the game, kept them to 19 points, and we couldn't score but 12. And I felt like, we really should have been able to win that game, and just could do it. But a lot of these other games, the first game against Green Bay back in 2016, threw for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dude did throw one pick on a sort of a misread. It was a dumb play call actually, because it was supposed to be like a trick play, and that they shouldn't have called. It was a Kellen Moore. Actually, that was a Scott Linehan special. Basically, that was the offensive coordinator then. Kellen Moore is actually on the team at the time. And then the game against the Rams, threw for like 250, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, but the defense gave up 300 yards almost on the ground. I mean, what's he supposed to do with that? Okay. The first game against the 49ers, which they lost 27 to 19 or something like that. Didn't the defense have like about 5 like penalties in the fourth quarter that kept drives going? It kept, it was very undisciplined. Randy Gregory was doing some stuff. Some other guys, it was just, I mean, he didn't play his best game, but there was some other things going on there. So, and in this game against the Green Bay Packers, about a month ago, I mean, he probably played a C minus, D plus, C minus game, but the defense played an F game because they never stopped and it just, it just, you know, but he never threw Dak under the bus. He didn't throw Micah under the bus. He didn't throw the coaches under the bus. All the people that Stephen A. and Shannon wanted them to point out. And I'm glad he made people talk about, well, dang, why did D-Law say what he said? Why he say that? Dang, because they can't make nothing out of him saying, oh, well, we was tired. We was really wore out. We just couldn't make adjustments. And we tried to make adjustments, but they just didn't go the way we thought we'd go. And then you can do with that, because nobody can get castigated from what he said. And what D-Law was doing was being a good teammate. And hats off to D-Law for doing that. Okay. Now, which leads me to Tony Romo, and he got, blasted by Stephen A. because he said, look, the Cowboys are close, man. That team's talented, man. They keep hammering it away at 11-12 wins a season. At some point, man, closer, they're going to bust through at one point. They got to. And, of course, now Stephen A. is discounting with, how would you know about a team being able to do that? It's not like you've ever done it. And I'm like, so because you've never won anything, you can't be critical or can't have an opinion? Because you got Marcus Spears on there. He's never won anything, but he's got opinions, and he's got some dadgum good ones, I thought that was a weak comment, and I thought it was a strong comment by Tony Romo, but we got to get it done. And we are a talented team. It's just something's got to give, and we got to get the right guys in at the right places. And, I think we'll be fine. But I just didn't like how Stephen A. came at him regarding that. And it was just interesting to me that he would come at at Tony Romo because he's never won it all. What would he know about how close they are? It ain't like they won it all and he don't know what close looks like. Yeah, okay, Stephen A. It ain't like you ever played a sport either. I know what you're talking about at that school you went to. You're supposed to have been a basketball star. Yeah, whatever, dude. You hit like 17 threes to win a trial or win a spot on that team. I want to say it was it Virginia Union? I can't remember what school it was. But Howard Big House Gaines, it was like his coach, and he was talking all that stuff. Anywho, I want you guys to listen to something that I found today. Yeah. Moose Johnson was on 105.3 The Fan talking to RJ and Sean. And they asked a question regarding why the Cowboys seem to can't do it in the playoffs. I mean, is there something coming between them doing what they could do in the regular season? Is there something coming? And I thought his answer was telling, and I always like to look at guys that have played for the Cowboys but have seen the way other teams operate okay, and tell you what the difference is. Let's see what Daryl Johnson has to say.
How consistently good, for the most part, Dallas has been over 27 years. I mean, they've had some downgrades, but generally they've been one of the better teams in the NFC over that time period. How they've just had this string where they cannot get it done in the postseason. A lot of people lately seem to be shifting it to, hey, this is just kind of a circus over here, and it's really tough to focus on the things that matter in relation to football with the circus. Obviously, you spent your whole career here, but now kind of like traveling around, seeing different facilities during the week, doing prep, and kind of seeing how other teams run and function. Is it that much different? Is it that radically different here in Dallas compared to the other stops around the NFL?
It's very different in Dallas. I think one of the things you hear, we talked about Philadelphia right before we came on air, and you'll hear Jalen Hurts say, keep the main thing the main thing. What is the main thing in Dallas? That's the question that you have to answer.
Good question.
What is your main thing? Is it football? Is it winning championships?
Should be.
Is it the brand? What is the main thing? And if you're keeping the main thing, then great. That's what you have to do. But I think a lot of people feel that football has to be the main thing, and maybe football is not the main thing.
And is that as having those sideshows or having it to where sideshows is a bad word, but that struggle?
Distractions, right?
Distractions.
We talk about it during the year.
Yeah.
You don't want to have any distractions. When you are creating distractions, they're hard enough to deal with when they just pop up. When you create distractions, and not only a distraction, but what would we call a distraction on a daily basis? When distractions become routine, now it's hard. It's very, very challenging for the players.
Moose, we're trying to fill Dan Quinn's spot. They reportedly just interviewed.
Yeah, we'll stop right there because they're going to go on to another topic. But that just goes to what I've been trying to say. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with that. The circus atmosphere that is the Cowboys, it just makes it difficult to do what you can do, what you need to do in order to be successful. And I've always said you could start over, but what you want these guys formulating your restart is the question that I would ask. Okay, that's the question I would ask. Do you want those guys formulating your or would you just want to just overwhelm the talent pool and just because I feel like if the team is so good, it'll overcome some things. And I think we may be a couple of players away now. Jerry said that we're all in this year. We're getting ready to see what all in means. Freaking free agent period starts in about 3 weeks, I think. Three weeks, maybe a month. Then the draft's in about a month after that. We're fixing to see. We're about to see what all in means, or if it's just a distraction, or if it's just another circus, or if it's just something to make a talking point, or if we really mean business. Because all in means you put all of the resources and all of the monies and all of the thinking modules in place and forward, and then your brain trust together to make sure we're putting the best team on the field in all areas. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it is a circus. I've been talking about that, and we know who the ringleader of the circus is, don't we? Right, don't we? Well, anyway, so that's that. So anyway, we're talking about before we get into who's the hire is who's hired as the defensive coordinator. We found out on last week that Dan Quinn took the Washington Commanders job. Now, he also took Joe Witt Jr. as his defensive coordinator, who was going to interview for the defensive coordinator job for the Cowboys. But I think he saw the writing on the wall because the Cowboys really never take first-time defensive coordinators. Usually it's somebody that's done it before in some other venue. So I think he saw the writing on the wall. So it is Dan Quinn that takes a first-time defensive coordinator. And, of course, Joe Witt has always said he wanted to be the Cowboys DC because he's a Cowboy fan. And I think grew up in the area and all that stuff. But Dan Quinn called him and he came. But, see, Dan Quinn wasn't satisfied with just getting Joe Witt. Oh, no. Contraire, mon frere. He wasn't just satisfied with just getting Dan Quinn. just getting Joe Witt. Dan Quinn was trying to clean out the cupboard. He came for Al Harris and he came for Zunda Wells. Al Harris is our secondary coach who Trayvon Diggs wanted to become the defensive coordinator. I don't think he's ever called defensive plays or anything before. He just works on the skill level of the cornerbacks. And of course, now anybody that I heard this on Landlord's podcast, YouTube channel today, and they was discussing it. He said, of course, and I think it might have been Henny DeMoore that said it, HTM Sports. He was saying, of course, your position coach, the guy that works close with you, yeah, that's the guy you would want. That's the guy you feel comfortable with. Of course, you want that guy to be your DC, even though he's never called a defensive scheme before. He just works on techniques and of his position group, So, and maybe he'll be retained. But then Lunda Wells is the tight ends coach. And of course, he's our tight ends are flourished. We're talking about Blake Jarwin back a few years ago to Dalton Schultz last year. And then, of course, Jake Ferguson this year. Our tight end room is good, and I think this guy's doing a good job. Now, the Cowboys said, block, and blocked him. And they can do that. They're well within their rights to do that because they're under contract. Okay. Now, I know that Al Harris said he'll go wherever Dan Quinn, sends for him, which is interesting because he's a Mike McCarthy guy. He actually played for Mike McCarthy, if I'm not mistaken, and he coached under Mike McCarthy. And I think he's got some Dan Quinn ties too, but it's worked with him, the 3 years here too. So, and he works on that side of the ball. So he's probably a little closer to him than he might be Mike McCarthy because he's on the defensive side. It's the offense versus defense. But no, the Cowboys said, nah, you ain't getting our guys. So now, news came about, 7:30 Central Standard Time, and the Cowboys have made a decision, and they decided to hire Mike Zimmer as his defensive coordinator. And it's kind of like anticlimactic because if you're reading the tea leaves, you knew that's who they were going to hire, okay? Because he's coached here before. Let me give you his breakdown. Mike Zimmer started in Dallas in 1994 as, I think, cornerbacks coach. He was the cornerbacks coach when Deion was on the team. Okay, actually before Deion was on the team, because 94 Deion was with the 49ers. But when Deion came to the team, and that's where they became friends. And so he was there, and he became the Cowboys defensive coordinator in 2000, and was defensive coordinator from 2000 all the way to 2006. Then he left there, became the DC at the Atlanta Falcons. But that whole regime went south after Bobby Petrino left a note in the players' locker, said, "Hey, you know what, man, I'm done." So Dan Quinn was on that staff, okay, and so he left there and went to Cincinnati and was the defensive coordinator from 08 all the way down to 2013. And nary a playoff win in there, but they had some good defensive seasons there. In 2014, he became the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and he was the head coach from 2014 all the way to 2021, and they went to the playoffs. Let's see here. Okay. Trying to see what their record was in these years. I know they went to the NFC Championship game in 2017. And so, yeah, and they got beat by the Eagles. But every year he's been a coach, they've had a top 15 defense. So he's good at the defensive thing. So, and then of course he's been out of the NFL since 2021. In 2020, he went down to Jackson State and helped Deion Sanders, his friend, with some administrative things and sort of a consultant. And then when Deion got the job at Colorado, he went from there to Colorado with him. Now, how that helps us is that him being in the college scene the last couple of years, he's going to help us a lot in the draft because he's seen a lot of players come through that transfer portal. He knows some guys. It's a couple of guys at Colorado, a couple of guys at Jackson State that maybe late in the draft and say, hey, man, this corner can play. Hey, this linebacker can play. He's got good traits. He's got good ability. He just needs some good coaching. He's got good traits. Maybe it's a corner, it's a safety or something there. Maybe he saw at one of those two stops, or maybe some of the guys he saw come through the transfer portal that can help us. So I like that aspect of it. But yeah, he's had a coaching tenure of like 22 years. I think he's like 75 and 59 or something like that. It's something like that. I remember seeing his coaching record. I don't see it right here. I remember seeing it. And let's see here. His winning percentage, though. Let's see. I think it's like 60%. He was 60, 67 and 53, I think, at Minnesota. So yeah, yeah. So anyway, so we got Mike Zimmer. So let's talk about Mike Zimmer, and we're gonna go ahead and close the video out. I just want to let everybody know that we got us a DC now. But the thing that I was upset about, because as soon as Mike Zimmer had come around and said, hey, I'm interested, it was sort of like to me, I found out that was going to probably be the guy, because he's a guy that, number one, is comfortable. He's been around the star, been around Jerry, been around all that stuff. And he's good at what he does too. He's very good at what he does. But I didn't like the dog and pony show that went on with this thing, because then the Cowboys start getting crazy with it. Because, okay, so now they started looking at Ron Rivera, which I have no problem with Ron Rivera, but Ron Rivera seemed like to me is like a burnt out coach to me. That's the kind of the feel I get from him when I watch his Washington teams and I see him on the sideline. He looks like a burnt out coach to me, a coach that the road has beat him down, okay, beat him down, and don't really have a lot left. He's really getting this apply for the job because he don't have one. Because Dan Quinn just took his job, and basically, if we'd have hired him, we basically would have just swapped coaches. So basically, when we played that last game in DC, which was our last win of the season, we could have just like, okay, Dan, you go over there, and Ron, you come over here, and we'll just go back to the house. And we just could have just did that. But no, they didn't hire him. He was just on the docket. But they did hire, which I thought halfway through the week, and I thought this was just something to get folks talking. Rex Ryan? Are you serious? Rex Ryan has been on ESPN for 5 years. That hadn't coached since 2016 when he was at Buffalo and wasn't good. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. Rex Ryan coached a mean defense. Okay? His defenses were top 5, top 7 when he was at New York. When he was at Baltimore, he's on those good Baltimore teams where Ray Lewis and stuff was on, and Ed Reed and those guys were on, right? And then he went from there and parlayed that into a head coaching job and took Bart Scott with him and had some guys, Darrell Revis and some other guys with him, and they had a top flight defense at New York. And they went to 2 AFC Championship games in 9 and 10. So that was a good team. That was good. And of course, he got let go there after a couple of years. And then he ended up getting a head coaching job at Buffalo, but that I think that ended in 2016. Of course, after that, they hired Sean McDermott. I think there was a coach in between Sean McDermott and Rex Ryan. But here's my problem with Rex Ryan. I feel like, man, the years that you out of coaching, the years that you sitting behind a comfy desk, and here's something that West Coast Cowboy made a comment on, and anytime I get a point of view that I think I agree with, I'll always give credit to where it comes from. He says, now, all this time that Rex Ryan has been on the set at ESPN, he's had interns and all this stuff go and bring up all these perspectives, all these probabilities, all these percentages, winning percentages, who won, and all these sorts of things. These people are preparing all these things for him. Now, when he goes to being a head coach, now you got to get all those things done yourself. you got to burn the midnight oil and stuff. You got to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning looking at film. And see, you at the ESPN desk making them $2 million a year, whatever you're making, and it's a cushy job. You really want to get back in the grind since you've been out of it for 7, 8 years? And then let's just face it, the league and the schematics have changed because now he did an interview with the Cowboys. My first question would have been to him, how would you propose, 2 questions really, how would you propose to stop this Kyle Shanahan tree offense that we seem to not be able to get a handle on? What would you do in order to curtail that offense? Okay. And then secondly, how would you deploy Micah Parsons? How would you play that poker chip in your defensive schemes? Those are the questions I would be wanting him to answer for me. Okay. But and then of course now they went another route and went Marquand Emmanuel, which is a guy. I mean, he's been a journeyman coach, been coaching. He played for Mike McCarthy in 2006 with Green Bay, and has been around. Went to Seattle with Quinn. Has been a defensive coordinator at Atlanta. Got fired there. Went to the Jets. Was like the secondary coach at the Jets. They've tried to look at him as a defensive coordinator. So now he's been on some good defenses. So I think maybe they went to get some intel from him. But here's the thing, though. I really think that they may have maybe pigeonholed him as maybe making him the passing game coordinator, which is what Joe Witt was. That's something they may have, but ultimately that's going to be Mike Zimmer's call because he's going to probably bring some guys with him in order to fill out his defensive roster. Now, there's one defensive roster move I really hope he makes. I hope he takes Scott McCurley off of the linebackers coach because I feel like the linebackers did not have a clue. The linebackers we had seemed like they did not know how to run fit, did not know which gaps to fill. They were just like Shannon Sharp would always say about we was talking about Jalen Smith. He looked like a blind dog in the meat house. He just running around, don't know where he's supposed to be at, but he smells something, but don't know where to go to get to it. And Scott McCurley is a guy that Mike McCarthy wanted. And that's, it's the cronyism, the cronyism that led him to hire Mike Nolan, because Mike Nolan made him had him on his offensive staff when he was the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers back in the 90s, right? So it's one hand washing the other. And him having Schottenheimer's on him because Schottenheimer gave him his first job when he was on the staff of the Kansas City Chiefs. When Joe Montana was there. We're talking about 93? So, but anyway, I hope Mike Zimmer is makes a coaching change in that regard. Like, look, man, we got to get some better linebacker coaches up in here and get us some linebackers. Now, here's one thing I do like about, and I'm going to talk about the advantages. Some advantages. And here's the advantages. And like I was saying before, I think them talking about Dan, Rex Ryan, and these other guys were clicks. And I think the Marquand thing might have been a Rooney Rule thing. Got to have a minority hire. I feel kind of weird even talking about that, but it is what it is. You just putting a guy in there, and you don't have no intentions of hiring him. But maybe they are looking at maybe putting him in a position maybe less than a defensive coordinator, but maybe better than the position he holds now with the New York Jets. So we'll see. But ultimately, that's maybe Dan Quinn's thing. But here's the advantages for Mike Zimmer. He got versatility. And what I mean by that, he can run. He's run at 3-4. He's run a 4-3. He's run a conventional defense with man. He's run defenses with zone. Some of the defense that he ran at Minnesota only ran about 15% man, about 75% zone, and some combinations therein. But he runs a scheme where you flood the A gaps with linebackers on either side of the A gap, along with the defensive lineman. And it's an interesting scheme because you bring those two guys to the line of scrimmage. And I got this courtesy of a couple of things from Gruden, John Gruden, and from Okoye Media. Please check out Okoye Media, Akoye, Okoye Media. He's got some good film breakdown. He actually broke down the film on all of the potential coaching hires that we was going to get for DC. But he brings the double A gap blitz, whereas the center don't know which guy's coming. Both guys could come, one guy could come, or no guy could come. And then the guys that don't come drop back into the zone. And then you bring your slot corner up to the line of scrimmage. And then you bring the a safety up to the line of scrimmage. Some of the guys coming, some of the guys are blitzing, some of the guys are dropping in, and that safety usually will fake the blitz and drop back into the flat. So the idea is to make the quarterback hold the football, and hopefully he'll have some schemes set up for Micah and get us a couple more linebackers. And because what we want, especially if Diggs is back at the level that he was at before he left, and hopefully they don't rush him back, and then we have Bland, and we keep Gilmore, and maybe even Jordan Lewis, but I know it's probably hard to keep all of them. But I'm confident that Mike Zimmer is going to have a scheme for those guys and keep these guys off balance and have these guys uncomfortable, because them guys look way too comfortable in that daggum Green Bay game. And I guarantee you, if Mike Zimmer was our coach, man, they wouldn't have been able to get away with some of the stuff that they was able to get away with. So that's one of the advantages, his versatility, his experience. He's got over 22 years experience in the coaching realm. He's been in college. He's coached. He's been a DC. He's been a cornerbacks coach. He's been a passing game, defensive passing game coordinator, been a DC, and been a head coach. Okay. And he's got knowledge of the Jones world. In other words, he knows what goes on at the Star. He knows what goes on at Jerry's world. He knows that stuff. He was there from 94 to 2006, which is like 12 years. Okay. So yeah, he knows all about that. Right? Knows all about that. And then another thing, the intensity. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna play you a clip from that when he was with the Cincinnati Bengals as DC. I'm gonna play that, man, because that just lets you know what you expected. And then don't take my word for it. Darren Woodson said, "Oh yeah, I learned more from him than I learned from any," because he was a defensive coach, backs coach when Darren Woodson was there. He said, "Man, but don't make no mistake about it. That dude ain't your friend. He's your coach. He's not trying to buddy you. He's not wanting you to laugh it up and you go have beers with him. He's not doing that." Okay. And then he has a level of accountability that he's going to bring to the table. See, Dan Quinn was all tucked up there in that booth up there, and only you see him expressions when a play went well. Now, when players was wetting the bed on the field, they ain't have to face Dan Quinn at the game. But you got to face Mike Zimmer, because he's not going up there. He's going to get down there on the field with you where he can look you right in the eyes and tell you. Well, I'm going to tell you in a minute what he would say. But yeah, the accountability that he's going to bring. And them guys not going to be able to shuffle off and lollygag and miss gaps and miss tackles and thinking to be okay. You can come to line, oh, well, I'll get them next time. That ain't flying with Mike Zimmer. I promise you that. I promise you that ain't flying. That's not flying with Mike Zimmer, okay? Some of the disadvantages. I mean, he's 67. So he's not going to be long for the game. That's the thing. He's 67. Most time at 67, you're looking for the exit. You're not looking for the on ramp. You understand what I'm saying? He may be out of touch with the modern concepts of the modern concepts of what the Ben Johnsons are doing, what the Shanahans are doing, the Sean McVays and the Matt LaFleurs are doing. Those guys and the Mike McDaniels are doing. Those types of things. Even the guy that took over for him, Kevin McConnell at Minnesota, that took over for him after he left in 2021. Those offenses, is he out of touch? Because you out of the league a couple of years. That's why I didn't know. I couldn't side with him with with the Cowboys looking at Rex Ryan. He's been out of the league too long, man. And once you out of the league, man, league changes. But yeah, his age, maybe out of touch with modern concepts. And, whereas he understands the Joneses and understands the layout of the Joneses, he's not intimidated, or he's not in awe. He will not be distracted by the circus that is the Cowboys, because he's been there before. But I also feel like he's too cozy with the Joneses overall. And maybe if the Joneses want a certain thing, he might not push back as maybe a Rex Ryan might, or maybe a guy that I would like to have seen get a look, a Wink Martindale. His name's really Don, but I think the consensus is that he's interviewing for the Michigan defensive coordinator's job. I think because I think that mentored guy, I think he's coming with Harbaugh to the Chargers. So I think he might have been going to look at that job. But that's what I couldn't understand. You going looking at Rex Ryan and a dude like Wink Martindale, who just coached last year and has always had a good defense. I just didn't think he had good personnel with the Giants. Adoree Jackson, and then you got what's the cornerback's name they got from Maryland? Dante Banks. And then you got Thibodeau, all young dudes. You imagine with the blitz packages he had, what he would do with Micah, and then having the corners that could cover like Bland and Diggs and Gilmore. What kind of blitz packages you could come up with when your corners got them guys locked down? Never got a look, because that didn't get the clicks that it would get if you put in a feeler for Rex Ryan, who's on the set of ESPN. You're gonna get clicks from that. And what Jerry was able to do is to overtake the Super Bowl. And now they're talking about the Cowboys wanting Rex Ryan more than the Chiefs and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. But overall, I'm happy with the hire, because I think he knows his defense. His defenses have never been bad. He never lets the players lollygag. He never lets the players get lax. He holds them accountable. He will get in their face. And I love that, because I hate it when guys just kind of slough it through. But don't take my word for it. I want y'all to hear this. I want y'all to hear this. I want y'all to hear this. I want y'all to hear this from Mike Zimmer. This is from I think 2012, I think, when he's with the Minnesota Vikings. The Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator. Just listen to this. I will give you the preface. It's got some 4-letter words in it, but here we go.
Better get your minds right, or I'll get them right for you. Damn it, that's horse shit. If we're gonna press G, you get your fucking ass outside and get it contained. Okay? I told you this fucking quarterback runs. Keep him in the fucking pocket. You got me? You better quit bullshitting around. I'm not having this bullshit. Better get your minds right, or I'll get them right for you.
Mike Zimmer ain't about the bull, man. He's not about it, boy. He is not about the bull crap. And them players, whether it be Micah, whether it's J-Rod Curse, whether it's D-Law, boy, if they think they're just going to shuffle through a practice and half do, boy, they got another thing coming to Mike Zimmer. He just told you. He is not about the bull-ish. He not. And maybe he's mellowed with age. That's been about 10 years ago, maybe 10, 11 years ago. Maybe he's mellowed with age. Boy, that make you want to play right there. Like, yeah, let's get it. Let's get it. So Mike Zimmer's our defensive coordinator. Boy, I think our defense gonna hit an upswing this time. We're gonna see what happens. Boy, I'll keep y'all posted. As what happens. But I'm gonna go and get on off of here. It's late. I think I'm gonna probably go on to bed right about now. But I just want to let y'all know some of the things and the goings on that's in the NFL world and the things that's going on in the Cowboys world this past week. And we got, for Cowboy family, we got us a DC. We got us a DC. All right. And we're going to see what happens. But anyway, that's all I got. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Become a part of the Uncle Fred Sports Experience. I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. We'll talk with you guys later. God bless.